Good evening and welcome to another seat in London Ascending in our venue. Tonight we are once again at the salon. We have Laura, who's Lady Baldacine, who is currently making her way to the salon because she's gotten in contact with Camilla, which she is happy to know that she's still up and going. Since she received heard some disturbing things yesterday, that something was amiss in the city. So she is quite pleased to be able to meet her again. And as we start our scene, Laura is just making her way um, up the stairs and ringing the bell. She is wearing a quite fine evening dress.
The door is answered by Cadbury, who says, good evening, madam. Please come in.
She makes her way in, smiles, as she usually does, and will get into the salon and sit down.
You see that when you walk into the room, Camilla's already there. She's laying on the daybed in a black suit with her sword sort of close by. When she sees Laura enter the room, she sits up.
Good evening.
Good evening. Pleasant surprise.
I do my very best. I hope that it's not a sign of things to come, points of the sword.
Unfortunately, maybe. I was at the Elysium earlier with our keeper, just standing watch as he had a meeting with Mr. Holst, I believe a member of your clan.
Indeed.
Our keeper was a little bit cautious after the previous encounter, where someone tried to use a discipline on him.
And as I believe, that person has now ended his quite dishonorable actions, rather permanently, apparently.
Seems so. Such is the plight of the guilty and all that.
Very well.
I'm happy to report that your clanmate performed most admirably, though, and has been welcomed back into our Elysium once more.
He is a very honourable man. I believe him to be, I don't know if he's a knight by that most literal definition, but from a different time where honour was a very, very prized commodity.
Yes, we talked about having a friendly spar at some point. I believe his technique is different to mine. He favours a two-handed broadsword.
Wow. Another thing I'll have to applaud to. I really do appreciate you fighting Dana. It was, I don't appreciate it, but it was interesting.
Yes, she's quite the brawler.
Mm-hmm. You can see that as soon as you say that, Laura just smiles and just nods. Just, like, for a couple seconds, she seems to drift away a little bit. And then she just kind of just looks up to you and says, I know that you cannot say everything, but I'm taking that your excursion yesterday was somewhat successful, or at least found something.
Well, It was successful, but I cannot say it was pleasant. We have located a place where a member of the Sabbat is performing horrendous acts, and we must go back to defeat this said person and his large group of mutated monstrosities.
Mm. A member of Clan Zelitsi, apparently.
Mm.
By your description.
Yes, unfortunately, the most, well, all Sabbat are equally loathsome, but I have a particular distaste for that particular bloodline. They were responsible for a lot of horrendous acts during the battle that they now call World War II, experimenting on people and the like.
Mm-hmm.
You see her sort of not shudder, but she wrinkles her nose slightly.
Mm. You must have seen a lot in your years.
Yes. There's one particular gentleman that evades me over time. He's a member of Clan La Sombra. I do hope that the Sabbat in the city do not herald him as well.
Does he have a name?
He goes by Magnus, but I do not know if that's his true name.
Magnus.
As we must be careful not to use our true names sometimes.
Of course.
Especially as he knows we have Clan Tremere on our side. He was responsible for the death of my sire, and she looks up to check that Cadbury's not in the room. He's not. The death of Cadbury's family.
Well, if he shows his face, I am sure we will hunt him down. And, well, you will have your just revenge.
I'm sure you've seen plenty of horror in your time as well. None of us have escaped it.
Quite so.
I believe the sheriff is looking for assistance in dealing with these horrors. Of course, I have volunteered myself.
Do you believe that there's plenty of neonates who would want to prove themselves? No?
Hopefully so.
But there are Sabbat in the city. Well, at least we found them before they attacked us.
It
If
seems
these
to be
are
a
the
small.
unknowns, which they're
I very much
not.
doubt it.
Yeah. We need to keep an eye out for people who are, well, essentially everyone at this point.
Yes, the atmosphere of war does breed mistrust, especially with the climate of treachery that's been happening recently.
Well, treachery. As with the elder Malkavian, and a member of my clan, that was, well, I would not say that that was a treachery, just very, very stupid decisions.
I was speaking of the former regent
I
turned
know.
infernalist.
I was making a poor attempt at humor. I'm sorry. I should have joked.
My sense of humour is not as well tuned as it should be. I have my mind on war at the moment, but your company has brightened my mood somewhat.
Please, you can relax with me here. Please sit down.
She sits down, uh, sort of close to Laura, but not directly next to her.
Laura's just sitting there. She smiles at her and just says, "So there was people that had lost their lives in this, well, discovery you've made."
Mm. They were absconded using the cloud of darkness, which I know is a somber trick, and then taken to this den where they are unfortunately being manipulated into creatures of monstrosity. There are some still left alive in there, but unfortunately they cannot be allowed to remain so.
It is quite limited what I've seen of the Sabbats in my time, to be honest. My country of birth was of a different story, and there were the occasional runoff that defied clan and name. There were Sabbat, but not really a lot of Smitsi and the Sombras. Their particular gifts is not something I am that experienced with. I've really never seen it, to be honest.
Well, as I'm sure you know, the Zamitsi have the power to mould flesh.
Oh, yes. I've heard a lot of
Yeah.
stories.
True monsters in their behaviour and their visage. But the Sombra are devious. They can fathom. They can confuse your mind and use these great clouds of darkness to cover you. It suffocates any humans, anything that breathes, that remains inside. That is how many of my ghouls were murdered in
Horrifying.
previous years.
Please, I do not wish to make you more uncomfortable. We can talk something else.
I'm not uncomfortable talking about war. It is what I was designed for. Many
Truly,
things make me uncomfortable, but
truly, you are not made or built for war. You were built to be yourself. Huh? That includes war, but I do believe you have other skills, right?
debatable. She smiles, sort of playfully.
Huh. Your your demeanor, you hold yourself very well. Have a tough shell to crack, but it's quite delightful to be able to look inside that shell once it's finally cracked. She smiles very warmly at me.
Hmm. I suppose you have the most finely tuned hammer for cracking the shell.
As I said, I try to use my talents as best I can.
That you do. She sort of gives her a kind of interested look.
Hmm. And she will just sit there and just say, well, so I'll be looking into this killer quite soon, and I do not know if you want to accompany me or assist me in this. I hope that you come to the
Of
bottom of it.
course. I won't let you tackle these matters alone. I'm sure I can divide myself somewhat to assist you.
Oh, you won't let me tackle these alone? Hmm. Why is that?
Well, it could be. She sort of backtracks on herself a little bit because that wasn't something she meant to say out loud. Well, I'm sure you are formidable. You do not lack the intelligence nor the capability to handle such matters. Apologies, I should not have been so forthright.
Hmm. Well, no offense taken. You don't need to apologize. If I didn't know better, I thought it was not necessarily a statement that I needed help, but rather something else you were implying. Oh well, I must be mistaken. And she has this fairly smug grin on her face as she just sits back and smiles.
She smirks slightly. She says, "Well, yes, I do concern myself over your safety."
Well, that's good to hear. I appreciate that.
And so, my assistance is yours if you want it. She says, like, it's sort of like in a way that's like, yes, you've got me there.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will welcome it. I will, of course, let you know when I intend to investigate some of this. But yes, I would welcome you to accompany me. However, a request, although well, we should probably perhaps step out a little of our comfort zone when it comes to dress code and how we appear.
What did you have in mind?
Well, I'm thinking if we were to meddle and mix a lot with the mortal kind, or the mortals, well, perhaps to appear as we normally do would probably not be the smartest. This is a smartest of moves. It's a case that has some public awareness. So, fake names. I do not intend to go bald, but I am planning on the night, perhaps changing my hair color and cut my hair quite short.
Perhaps Christian could make an appearance.
The fellow from the army. She smiles.
I could modernise his attire somewhat. I have modernistic clothing. My eldest child is a fashion designer, so I'm sure she'll have something, one of her vast wardrobes that will suit.
It is. You do not need to do much, but just a little change will throw off most suspicion, especially with potential Sabat being involved. I think it is. We owe it to ourselves to at least be a little bit careful.
She nods.
I'd love to meet this Christian. He sounds wonderful.
Oh,
I'm curious. When you do you change your attitude as well, or is it just your appearance? I'm curious. You take on another
Ah,
persona, or
I guess you'll find out.
I'm looking forward to that.
Don't we all wear masks?
Oh, we do.
As the great owner of this house once said, a man is least himself when he is in his own person. Give a man a mask and he will tell you the truth. Perhaps then that is the answer to your question.
We will see.
I'm going to make a peony on her. It's a
Whoa,
good roll.
that is a good roll. You're quite sure that Laura is excited, and she also seems to be. Maybe she's expecting something more than normally would think, or maybe she's definitely having fun. She's definitely enjoying herself right now. That much is for certain.
Hmm. Camilla reaches up and takes her black gloves off and puts them on the table.
The gloves are coming off. Hmm.
Well, you did wish me to be relaxed.
That I did.
She holds her hand up. You see that it's the one hand that you've took before. It's very much as you remember it. The other hand has a scar that goes from her little finger all the way down to just below her wrist.
Hmm. A war story, or
Hmm. Oh, she takes her hand and sort of rubs it. No, nothing as grand as that.
do tell.
A long time ago, in my mortal days, I stopped a bar brawl. Um, Two gentlemen were arguing over the price of a lady of the evening, and they threatened her with a knife, and I stepped in to stop the fight, and got this for my troubles. Not exactly a war story. I was beaten quite soundly during that altercation.
Laura gets up, and just comes over and just lightly touches the scar and just follows it with the finger. Just in the grand scheme of things, a small price to pay for a very, very noble deed. You had really nothing at that. I'm guessing you had no training, none of the capabilities that we have, and yet you did it anyway.
I was 17. She says her fingers slightly sort of twitch.
Even more impressive. Hmm. She rubs it a bit, and she just says, "Ah, you are really noble in more than one way. I'm glad I came to see so many interesting people."
Mm-hmm. I'm going to make a roll. Which I fuck up.
You fail.
Camilla, oh, that was not a self-control, manipulation subterfuge roll. You see that the kind of stoic expression drops. And Camilla's watching Laura sort of run her fingers over the scar, and then she watches for a few moments, and then when she lifts her eyes, she sort of focuses on Laura's collarbone for a moment.
On her what?
On her collarbone, like just below her neck. Before raising her eyes again.
I believe that the two of us will have very, very good future. I do believe we complement each other quite well. And we have an understanding.
I agree. We seem to work well together, balance out each other's thoughts. A good premise for a coterie, no doubt.
Quite so.
Is she still holding onto her hand?
No, she's let it go, and she seems to be, at the moment, she just slowly begins to walk back and sit down again. But she seems to be contemplating something.
Penny for your thoughts.
Well, it's nothing. We all have to process quite a few things at the same time. So, think nothing.
Camilla looks skeptical.
Yeah, that's. She just.
Clearly the hell out of that shit.
And like, you don't even need to, because Laura.
Damn it.
Laura will just say, "Well, you sometimes seem to be lost in thought, but I know your plans tendency to sometimes be a little focused."
I'm well disciplined, but I must confess that I do find you distracting at times.
Well, I apologize for that. She has a very smug grin on her face. She just, well, it is simply a distraction you'll have to live with, I suppose.
I'm sure I can come to terms with that. She smiles.
Good to hear. I do believe I would consider myself a rather pleasant distraction.
Very much so.
Laura just
Camilla has a sort of contented look on her face.
So I'm guessing it was a look of admiration that made you my, and she just rubs her neck, catch her attention.
Damn it, Peter. Okay. You see Camilla sort of her eyes flicker for a moment. Admiration, yes. A woman of your beauty should be quite used to that, I imagine.
I am. Mostly. Although on most occasions it is men who try to do quite a few things. So, well, get my attention. But in this city it's been more than one woman, it seems.
Camilla just sort of, her head flicks slightly to the side and she raises an eyebrow. Oh.
Well, I'm not opposed to this at all. Do not see why we should be bound by some petty and, well, mortal concerns.
Quite so. There's more than one way to be appreciative of beauty.
Laura gets up and goes near Camilla and just, oh, I know. Quite so. She looks at her. Just, but I do appreciate your honesty. It is a mere appreciation of beauty, or is there something else in it? She's has a grin.
I agree. Camilla smiles sort of shyly almost, which is an interesting look for her. I must admit to be particularly favoured to you in particular. But I'm sure you are aware of that, as perceptive as you are.
That well, you did not hide it that well, if I might say so.
Mm. Well, we all have chinks in our armour. I must confess to your blade being particularly well thrust.
Well, I can only hope that it will not affect our work, our collaboration in this country.
Of course not. I'm Nothing if not professional. My duty is always before my personal matters.
That is
I would
very
not.
good to hear. She just says, and she will close in and she will kiss Camilla and just slide a hand up behind her face. And after standing there, unless Camilla does something against that, she will just remove, like, fire and just say, and you're very welcome as well. And smiles.
Camilla definitely doesn't resist it. I mean, she's very stiff at first. Like she wasn't expecting it. It's caught her off guard. It takes her a second to respond. And then when Laura pulls back, she's just got this sort of different appearance. She sort of gives her a very slightly. There's a momentary feverish look that she stills herself against, melting it into a smile.
As I've said before, you probably need to relax more.
Consider this my journey into relaxation.
I very much like that. And she will just take her hand, and the two of them will go over. Uh, is there what Laura doesn't know what direction from the salon, but she would just like take her over to a place they can sit down.
Yeah, there's like various rooms. Like the room that they commonly hold the salon in is like a meeting, like a sort of smoking room type thing. There's another room that's kind of like a living room with like chaise longues and more comfortable seats, and then upstairs there's a bedroom, but the bedroom's not fit for overnight staying, shall we say.
She will just take Camilla into the living room,
Mhm.
and she will find a very comfortable seat to sit in,
Mhm.
and she will just smile and just relax. Is there anything on your mind? Anything you would like to discuss? Say? Do?
Camilla, she does relax. Her body language is much more languid. Um, she sort of leans back in the chair. Where does Laura sit?
She's also sitting in a chair, probably just like next to her, or just opposite her, but they're fairly close.
I would very much like to spend the evening with you, discussing art and history and love and passion and music and being more relaxed.
I will not, as I am perhaps someone who does not tell the whole truth. I do not lie very often. And I will not lie to you, I have started to see another person in the city now. I honestly do not see why I should be committed to one over the other. I love whom I love in different ways. I love you for your stature, bravery, your, well, love. Like you for your bravery, your stalwart nature. And I like Dana for her passion, for her uncompromising nature. I do know that this might cause a complication.
Camilla, she's a bit surprised. But then she sort of puts two and two together about it. Hmm. Well, as long as our interests do not cross, I do not see a problem.
Very well, and very good. Uh, Laura just gets up, smiles at her, and just goes over to her and just she approaches her and then whispers in a very deep voice, obviously joking, "You want to go home to my place?" Something like that, and she just parts up and just smiles at her, and her head slightly tilts.
Sounds like a wonderful way to end the evening.
Very well. And Laura just takes her hand, and the two of them will exit the building. Laura's ghoul will pick them up, and they will proceed into Laura's domain. And with that, we will end our scene. Thank you very much, players, for playing, and watchers for watching. Good night.